The First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Well, Tim just mentioned how warm it is here in the studio, but I think it's a heck of a lot warmer outside. Whether you're out there at Jack's Beach or, you're in Stark or really anywhere across Northeast Florida or Southeast Georgia, Tim, you pointed this out earlier.
We win. We're number one.
We are top dogs right now.
Wow.
Warmer than Miami, warmer than New Orleans. Look at Chicago, though. 90 degrees in the Windy City.
They're cranking.
You look up to the north, though. We talked about this the last couple days. Bismarck International Falls, they had temperatures in the 80s.
The front is through.
The front is through. What a stark contrast it looks like now. 46 in Bismarck. So
probably with a bit of a wind chill, too, I would suspect.
I would suspect that, those winds are cranking pretty well up there in old North Dakota. So
it looks like we hit our high. Now the question is, we'll go past 94 degrees. But there's the violent weather. You talked about this yesterday, and sure enough, tornado watch and warnings right along the St. Croix and Mississippi River there, heading in toward Woodbury and St. Paul's and Minneapolis, St. Paul. And
so it looks like it's just moved through Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Look at that one tornado. Look at this in May. One tornado warning getting up toward the Canadian border. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the same system we kind of talked about yesterday. Big, upper level low, very mature. It's completely wrapped around itself.
Yeah.
So they are seeing severe weather up there. Another area further well off to the south, southern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, and kind of into the Paducah, Kentucky area. Severe thunderstorm watch there as another kind of just wave. Short wave makes its way across. But this is going to be...
Before you go too farther, wouldn't you say that they're getting, in addition to the shortwave going across that area, it's also probably over the intersection of where you got dew points out of the Gulf in the 70s, and then that dry line's coming in from the west-southwest?
Yeah, kind of.
And then just sort of as a trigger, sending stuff up.
Yeah, because, especially you talk about the dry line. That'll be a big talker really starting on Saturday, and then through, I think, next Monday or Tuesday. Folks pretty much from Dallas and Wichita Falls in Texas all the way up through Wichita, Kansas then have a chance for severe weather like every single afternoon and evening due to that dry line. So if you've ever lived out across that part of the country, that's a pretty typical setup for mid to late May, and they're going to be seeing a lot of that here over the next couple of days. But yeah, for this part of the country, we had a discussion. What did we want to call it? The heartland, perhaps west of bluegrass country by Tim's standards.
Maybe from the northern extent, the gateway city to the river city.
Yeah.
Almost on down to the home of the blues there, Memphis, Beale Street.
And this is one area that's had round after round after round of not only severe weather, but very, very heavy rainfall. They had flooding concerns, about a month ago?
It'd be interesting to see, they expect to be wetter than Oklahoma City, but it'd be interesting to see if they have some equivalent close to record rainfall spring levels there like Oklahoma City has had.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to kind of look up. I might have to do that then. Because, another big chance tomorrow, level 4 out of 5. Moderate risk for severe weather there. And I think the models depict it pretty well. This is one thing I love to show is just the available energy in the atmosphere. So the mixing of the heating and the instability available for those storms to develop. You're getting a lot of red, specifically right over Paducah, Kentucky, into southern Illinois, into southern Indiana by mid-afternoon tomorrow. So that is where the Storm Prediction Center has kind of painted the bullseye for severe weather tomorrow. This is another way to look at it. The tornado parameters, also quite strong signatures there, pretty much from Memphis up into northern Tennessee, Kentucky, similar areas. So another significant potential severe weather outbreak across that part of the country tomorrow afternoon, Tim.
So if you're flying, I would plan on at least maybe some delays. St. Louis, Memphis, Nashville, Cincy, Louisville.
Yeah.
But if you're locally at home and you hear us talking about that high pressure ridge, what Ross just showed you really paints that ridge. All those intense colors kind of ridged up to the northwest of us, and then we're on that southeastern descending side. And it looks like we're going to be under that ridge probably through at least Tuesday, and then Wednesday maybe it starts breaking down.
Yeah, so we have 90s for probably another 6 days maybe.
Without much of a chance of thunderstorms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A dry pattern setting up as well. Yeah, it paints the high pressure pretty nicely, at least the surface high over the Floridian Peninsula. But not only does it keep us, baking and in the heat, but notice off to the west, so from New Orleans north, you have that just constant Gulf moisture return. And that's what's pumping up those dew points and that low-level moisture, which is giving, plenty of juice for those storms to develop. So you'll notice here, we've talked about this the last couple of days as well, Tim, the overall rainfall over the next week, a lot of it up there anywhere from 3 to 6 inches. I think that's probably a conservative amount, depending on, the heavier downpours and thunderstorms. But
that's a lot. Again, in that same location, and it's all going to pour into the Mississippi River Valley again. And then this is what I was curious about, Ross. We were talking about that. If this goes through Thursday, certainly I'm not expecting widespread soaker, but I am a little surprised they're not giving us a little more of a chance, or have at least the 100th of an inch to 10th of an inch mark, a little more, covering more of southeastern Georgia and maybe northeastern Florida, if indeed this goes through Thursday, right?
Yeah, this goes through Thursday.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that might be a little undone. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, because although we had plenty of rain with the last event, we go through 7 days of this kind of heat, and we're going to need some more rain.
And before we will talk about it a little bit here, but you and I are feeling fairly confident that I think Southeast Georgia has a decent chance for at least some showers on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
evening.
late Sunday, because they'll be downstream and at least close enough to all that stuff you're talking about that, like for instance, Atlanta probably has a decent chance of thunderstorms.
Yeah, I would say the further north you go, to the better chance you have there for the end of the weekend and even into early next week. But this is a live look at the temperatures out there right now. It is pretty steamy, Tim. You got 94 in Jax, 92 in Brunswick. I mean, many places in the 90s right now. Seabreeze trying.
It's going to have it's yesterday. It's probably not going to get as far inland as yesterday. And that was another thing I was noting on that when you showed the high pressure ridge that was sitting at about I-4. Then for fellow forecasters, what that means is we have predominantly a much stronger west and southwest flow than a sea breeze. So it's going to be really tough for that sea breeze to even make it to the intracoastal, I think, over the weekend.
What I think that also shows pretty well here, St. Augustine, Mayport, St. Simons, even places at the beach in the 80s, but you really don't have to go, too far inland to where you're right back into the 90s again. So dew point wise, increasing the heat index a little bit there. 95 at Mayport is the real
look
deal.
At Mayport, so they have the sea breeze, but that also means the dew point's up, so it's still pretty steamy out there.
And so, same thing. And St. Simons was at 84?
Yeah.
But with the dew point, feels like 92. So it feels just about like the low to mid 90s nearly everywhere across the First Coast here this afternoon and early this evening. Overnight, temperatures are going to dip down a little bit. Might be close to where we were last night. I think we hit 66 last night, Tim.
Yeah, so maybe just a degree up. But we're probably going to see that, because you mentioned it, that although the bulk of that Gulf moisture and high dew points are shooting up from up New Orleans on up to Memphis, but some of that is spilling over that ridge and gradually affecting our way day by day.
Yeah, so it will be a very small incremental increase overall in the humidity and moisture.
Oh, that pool looks nice, doesn't it?
Folks are going to want to take a dip in the pool this weekend.
In the water. Yep.
Yes.
Don't stay near the water, in the water.
Yeah, well, I know for me too, trying to sunbathe out there in the sun, it'll be about a 5-minute layout for me, and I'm going to have to jump in.
I would think so.
You're going to be roasting mid-90s tomorrow. Perfect pool day or beach day. Here's your highs pretty much across the board tomorrow afternoon. Perhaps record-breaking or at least record-tying temperatures tomorrow, Tim.
And that was back 1995, right?
Yeah, 1995.
3 straight days in a row. So here again, this great graphic you have up there that although, yes, the beaches will have a sea breeze, and by late in the afternoon and the evening, it'll feel better out there. But notice, before that helps out, it's going to feel just as hot out toward the beaches as anywhere else, unless you're actually in the water. Dancing at the Streets. For those new to the area, that's where Atlantic and Neptune Beach meet. I think this is like their 38th annual. Wow.
Yep.
I remember when they first did that and they sold bricks, because there were really basically only about 2 restaurants out there then, and they were trying to make the transition to a nicer spot, and that in fact happened. And in fact, Ross, if you're ever looking for something to do, there is a that we bought in the 80s. There is a Deegan brick out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I'll have to go in search of it?
You don't have to, but if you're bored, or if you're
I'll have Enzo sniff it out.
There you go.
Find it for me.
Sniff it out, Enzo.
Yeah.
Find Deegan.
Maybe not this weekend though.
No, it's gonna be a hot brick.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hot one. Not just on the brick, but for pups and our furry friends out there, it's gonna be a hot weekend for them, just like it will be for us. That heat holds through the weekend. So because of the heat, and since we really haven't experienced heat like this, not only yet this season, but also this is very abnormal for this time of the year. Record tying, if not breaking temperatures.
Yeah, so let's face it. I'm just going to grab one of those words you were using because they can sound exaggerative, but they're not. Is that a word, exaggerative? But if in fact we break the record every day, we will be able to say that in Jacksonville, Florida, at least over the last 150 years, no one has felt heat exactly like this. I mean, this is kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, because our average right now is supposed to be 86.
Yeah.
And instead, we're going to be 10 to 12 degrees warmer than that. So hydrate as much as you can here tonight. Continuing through the weekend, there is a look at what the actual records are, at least for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you'll notice, our forecasted highs are either at that or above it. So a very, very good record, or very good chance of seeing that record-breaking heat wave here this weekend. And it looks like, Tim, it might, or more than likely will, continue into next week when we're talking about the heat. Temperature-wise, temperatures might come down a little, but the humidity actually continues to go up. So your real field temperatures are just about the same as we head into next Monday and Tuesday.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe, because it almost looks like we could get some maybe at least lower 70-degree dew points. Mm-hmm. So it could be that looking back at this event, we might end up seeing some of our highest heat indices maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
And I think you'll notice here on the 7-day, once I do pop it up, this is just kind of showing that high, and the ridge of high pressure really doesn't move over us there through next Monday and Tuesday. But yeah, look at the overnight lows here, folks. So low to, if not even the mid-70s by Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm sure out at the beaches and at Mayport, lows on Wednesday morning could be 75, 76.
Yeah, maybe middle and upper 70s. And as a reminder, folks, we say follow the dew point. And I understand if at home you're not going to actually know or follow the dew point, but a rough feel of that is look at where the morning lows are. They're going to be pretty close to where the dew point is. And so you could track that 67 to 73, and probably we'll see about at least 6-degree rise in the dew point, day by day as we go from Friday through Wednesday.
And then you notice there Wednesday into Thursday, the heat finally breaks. It looks like, well, relatively speaking, still going to be warm, but we're not going to be talking mid-90s by next Thursday. Looks like a weakening cold front will probably make its way toward us, but we are expecting at least some rain chances, or at least better than what we will have seen over the past or previous 4 to 5 days. So slightly better rain chances late next Wednesday into next Thursday.
But I do want to emphasize that to folks, because I've already heard that some think, oh my gosh, summer's already here. And what I'm hearing in their voice is not only that it's going to be hot this 7 days, but the thinking is, from now through September, it's going to be in the 90s. And no, it is still spring. And as you mentioned, this is not going to be a major cool front, but pretty significant for this time of the year. So at least we're going to have some variety. Like I wouldn't be, to me, if we were to take this to like day 8, 9, and 10, we might even see lows, maybe lower 60s, highs maybe more like lower middle 80s a couple of those days. So it will back off some. So if that helps psychologically,
the pendulum will swing back the other way, so to speak.
Right. So we're not stuck in the 90s now through Labor Day. Not quite there yet.
Yeah, we'll moderate out a little bit. Now, something else I wanted to get to, Tim.
Yeah.
Last night was a big night here in Jacksonville. Well, really all across the country for your football fans. The Jaguars 2025 schedule was released last night. I wanted to talk about it with you, mainly because...
Can I at least throw out some old guy perspective to this?
Sure.
So you may not remember this, but I thought everybody was football crazy in the 90s, but I promise you there wasn't a TV special. There was, seriously, the sports guy or woman would announce it, And we'd all talk about it amongst ourselves. But wow, I mean, it's really become a big deal. I mean, I get it because it's fun to talk about. You've heard me say this, but as a Jag fan, unfortunately, as a Jag fan, there's been many springs where this has been the most enjoyable time of the year, right? Because we can be just as optimistic as anybody else.
The hope is still there,
and then sometimes things can get rough. So I get it. To me, it's so fun. To me, if you're a fan, I don't care what team you're with. I know what the experts say. I don't care what team you're with. If you're a fan, you got to believe, at least right now, things could work out to at least you get to the playoffs, even if you don't think you're your Super Bowl contender, right? So yeah, this is great talking about schedules and.
Well, Andy, let's pop up the schedule here so folks can see it. So there you go. Week 1, September 7th, also my birthday, if you want to remember that one. First home game of the year, hosting the Carolina Panthers.
Now, here's some more old guy stuff. Can you perceive why? Obviously, what football fan doesn't have a list of at least 10 teams or cities that they can get irritated about, right? But can you guess why the Panthers, even though they've never been in our conference, are such a significant rival for us? Okay, I'm going to take you back to expansion. And expansion, we were not favored. Charlotte was. Charlotte, in our opinion, has, I'm talking even before NFL, because the banking towns blew up there in the late 80s and 90s. In fact, a couple of our headquarter banks moved to Charlotte. And in my opinion, I think a lot of Jacksvillians, Duvalians, they've looked down at us. And seriously, and I remember when we were even talked about in the same sentence as Charlotte, they did not like that idea. They did not like the idea that Jacksonville even had a chance. But then it got worse because then the NFL was going to give it to 2 teams. It looked like it was going to be Charlotte and St. Louis with this discussion about these crazy folks down in Jacksonville. St. Louis couldn't get their act together. Charlotte got it, and they were excited. But even then, and I know this for a fact because I have some friends that lived in Charlotte from the mid-'90s, but they were so upset because the real talk on ESPN and everybody else wasn't so much that Charlotte got it, it was that Jacksonville was in the hunt. They couldn't stand that. But then it goes the other way. But then who ended up going to the Super Bowl first? Not us.
Yeah.
And so there's just, in my mind, just because of what happened with the expansion, and then they went to the Super Bowl first.
They're a big rival.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, to me, some teams you want to beat by a point, some teams, 40-3.
Well, at least you play them here.
Yes.
And you don't have to go up to Charlotte. Now, we do have kind of an outlook on what the weather could be for traveling fans, for any Jags fans
I love it.
who want to travel to some of the other locations. What the weather could look like. So first away game up in Cincinnati, September 14th. They're still obviously mid-September, so still going to be pretty warm. Your chance of rain probably going to be anywhere between about 25 to 30%. I mean,
but compared to here.
Oh, it'll feel much nicer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Even more so than by the end of September, you head out to San Francisco, or really Santa Clara, out at Levi Stadium to face the Niners. Beautiful weather.
Absolutely.
A little drier air, so even lesser of a chance for rain there. Then you don't have another away game outside of heading to London until the first weekend, that first Sunday of November. You head out to Las Vegas. You take on the Raiders. And beautiful weather in Las Vegas, especially by early November. So,
and if you're not because that's basically the same weekend as Florida, Georgia. So if you're not a Gator or a Bulldog, sometimes you're looking for reasons to get out of town anyhow. That could be a great game.
And similar thing, with Houston too. I mean, most of these are all pretty warm places. Now I will mention Raiders and the Texans obviously both play indoors, so this is just going to be kind of for tailgating outside. Similar thing with the Cardinals there by Thanksgiving weekend. But then it starts to get interesting once you get to the last few away games of the year.
A lot of folks like to go to Nashville. So
Nashville's a close one.
That's always a fun one.
Temperatures start to dip down a little bit. You kind of get into that part of the year where those fronts are starting to swing on through, the jet stream's dipping down. So maybe you have a rain chance up there. But
for us, those are cold temperatures.
Well,
but it's kind of exciting because if you're a Jag fan, you find you get to wear some of that gear that you can't wear here.
Yeah.
At least not through October.
Well, and then even the December games. Denver and Indianapolis.
Dreaming of a white Christmas.
Could see some sleet,
that'd be fun.
Some freezing rain, some snow, perhaps, especially in Denver with that higher altitude. So perhaps some fun outdoor games there in Nashville and Denver for the end of the year. Now, before we go, we got about a minute and a half, Tim, so we'll have to go quick.
Okay.
I'm going to have Andy toss back the schedule again. I've printed each of us out the Jag schedule, okay?
Yes.
I want to go through just bang, bang, bang real quick what you think win or loss for each game is.
Wow, okay, this is fast. Well, we got to beat Carolina no matter what.
Okay. Then you're traveling to Cincinnati. What are you feeling there?
Cincinnati's kind of iffy
against Mr. Joe Cool and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would love to win, but if we're going to be realistic, I'll give that as a possibility of an L.
Okay, I'm gonna give that one an L. I think we split the games with Houston this year. Okay. So
okay.
I think we win at least one against Houston. Mm-hmm. Traveling to San Francisco on the West Coast. I don't like those chances.
I don't either.
I'm taking an L there. Then probably the big one you got circled on the calendar. You got the Chiefs coming to the River City for Monday Night Football.
Give us the W.
I'm going to have to ride with the Big Cats here. Give them the
Okay,
W.
listen to Ross.
Then you got the Seahawks. I'm going to say another W. And over in London, the Rams, who I do think could be a Super Bowl contender. I'm going to go for the upset.
I am too.
Give them the W.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, W.
You're giving us a W in Vegas? I like it. I like it.
Yeah, the Raiders are trash.
Okay, but then you're going to give us the L in Houston?
L in Houston.
I can see that.
L against the Chargers. I'm going win against the Cardinals.
Might have to continue tomorrow.
Win against the Titans.
Go. Indianapolis, it's the end of the year, we got to win.
I think you split
New York,
those.
you got to win. Denver in the snow, you got to win. You got to beat Indianapolis. You got to beat Tennessee. There it is.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 5 for the Jags.
Wow. Yes, go Jags.
Let's see if it happens, folks. Take care.